Hello, Dr. Casella here, and in this video I'll be talking about type conversion functions. So we will first open up IDLE, and here we are. So let's suppose I'm looking at the number 3.9. If I want to see what type 3.9 is, I use the type function and I get class float. Tells me it's like a float class. If I use the int function on 3.9, okay, this is a type conversion function, it will display 3. So what the function did is it took the number 3.9, which was a floating point number, floating point decimal, and it converted it to the integer 3, the integer portion of that number 3. So if I looked at the type of, and let's say I'm looking at the number 3, and I'll put it in quotes, 3, type 3. But this time the number 3 is in quotes, then it says, oh, that's a string class. That's what type that is. It's of the string class. And then if I use the int function on 3 in quotes, and I hit enter, well, it takes that string 3 and converts it into the integer 3. Okay? So it's just Python's way of understanding values. So it understands values to be of type floating point decimal, of type integer, of type string, and it has to do with how the number is stored to determine what type it is. And that's all done in the machine language of the computer. So let's try another thing. Let's say I want to look at the type of the number 4. Enter. And that tells me that's an integer type value. I can apply the float function to the number 4, and it converted it to a floating point decimal. So it took the integer 4, which isn't going to take as much space in computer memory as the floating point decimal 4. And you can tell it's floating point decimal because it has the decimal point right there. So it says 4.0. Okay. So int can convert values into integers or force them to be integers. Float can force them to be floating point decimals. And string, so if I apply the str function to the number 4, the integer 4, I get 4 in quotes, single quotes. So that lets you know that the type of that value is now a string. Let's suppose I'm looking at the type of, and now I'll put quotes. I could put single or double. I'll put single this time. 3.9, end quote, enter. And you can see that's a class string. And that's because it was in quotes. So Python says, oh, okay, well, this is just a string value. And so that is the string value for 3.9. Now, if I wanted to apply the float operator on that string value, which I put the quote, 3.9, single quote, and parenthesis, enter. And what it did is it took that string value and converted it to the number 3.9. If I try to use the int function on that string, so quote 3.9 end quote, and I hit enter, I get an error. And the reason why is because Python says, okay, I have this string and you're telling me to force it to become an integer. And when it tries to do that, it says, oh, wait a second, there's a decimal point here. This is not an integer, and so it gave me an error. If I wanted to make 3.9 the string value become an integer, what I'd have to do is I couldn't just use int on the string 3.9. What I'd have to do is convert the string 3.9 to the floating point decimal 3.9. And I would do that using the float function here. And so now inside int, what I've done is I've used the float type conversion function on the string 3.9. So then what it does is it takes the string 3.9 and converts it into the number, the floating point decimal number 3.9. And then the int function takes the floating point decimal 3.9 and converts it to an integer. So the result of this now is 3. Okay, bye for now.